You know, last episode I didn't like very much. And I was frustrated, and I thought that I saw it heading in a direction I didn't like. I did not anticipate an episode that was going to actively tick me off as much as this episode actively ticked me off. Now, before I dig into this thing, let me first acknowledge that there are layers here that I am failing to connect with, that do seem to be connecting with probably the intended audience, which is good. Because before shooting this review, I did something I almost never do, which is to actually go onto Twitter, try and get a sense through Lovecraft Country as a hashtag of what the reaction, the response to this episode was. And I didn't spend that long digging through it, but for the time that I did, almost everything I saw was at worst leaning positive, if not outright praising elements of it. And I'm not going to say those people are wrong. I can only give my opinion. And in my opinion, there was almost nothing about this that worked for me. It either failed to engage me, or it actively infuriated me. So, where do we start? Well, okay, let's start with the fact that it's HBO, so let's have nudity and gore. I get really frustrated and disappointed with this show when it just goes for gore. It did such amazing work early on, creating tension in gore-free scenes in the first episode. It did such a fantastic job engaging me emotionally with what was going on in the third one. Oh my God. Okay, so we literally open with a naked woman. Ruby is naked, I swear, in half her scenes. Letty has to get naked again. I'm getting really annoyed with this. And I'm not necessarily going to blame the show. I'm going to blame the network. I'm going to blame HBO for this. I'm not going to go so far as to say they're definitely mandating nudity in their adult-targeted things, but, like, it sure as hell feels like they are. And it's stupid and pointless and irritating. But that's really superficial. But that's just sort of me saying, like, this thing got me off on the wrong foot right off the bat. The whole Ruby is a white woman, by virtue of magic thing, I was unengaged by it. I'm not sure it was bad. It just kind of became something where, like, for me, I just wasn't connecting with it. I think part of it was it laid out its thesis statement before it earned it. So, like, I remember when Ruby said, I forget the exact line, but it was something to the effect of, I don't know what's harder, being black or being a woman. And she said that like 20 minutes into the episode. That's the kind, like, I expected that sentiment to come about, that being white didn't suddenly make all of her problems go away, and there's a lot of things that are tied to being a woman. It doesn't matter if she's white or not, that she's still going to get screwed over and taken advantage of or treated certain ways that she doesn't want. But it was like she had come to that conclusion before she'd even had the experiences. So the order of events there lost me a bit. Like, the conclusion's valid. I ain't disputing that, but it set it up front like it was trying to form an essay. Make your thesis statement, then your supporting arguments, then reiterate your thesis statement. But it's a narrative. It's not an essay. So that entire thing, and that's where a lot of the gore comes in. And here's what I'll say about that. It was intense, and in a well-shot way, the first time that we really see her kind of slough off the skin. I think that it would have been visually more arresting for me if I'd seen it happen to a character where I didn't know why it was happening. Because in this case, since I already knew that Hillary was Ruby and that the transformation back into Ruby was traumatic, it was very easy for me to guess what this was. And it was just visualizing what I was already assuming was happening. Which I'm just kind of sitting there going, yep, how long are we going to drag this out? But the visuals were actually really strong, and it might have engaged me if it was something I was seeing and didn't know why. And I think that's a big thing of where some of my frustration comes with this. I feel like I know too much about why everything's going on. And that might sound weird, but a big part of Lovecraftian horror is this sense that you can't wrap your head around what's going on. And something weird happens, and it's one more piece in a puzzle that you will never have every piece of. And the show has captured that feeling before. It's just not right now. Not with this episode. So Ruby's entire thing. Oh, and Christina turns out to be William, which I kind of knew because somebody dropped that in the comments of my previous video and had stated it like it was already a proven fact, but it obviously wasn't because the reveal was here. So I already knew that was coming because somebody had spoiled it. And yes, your theories count as spoilers if you're right. So, don't be a jerk. So I wasn't surprised by that. I'm not sure I would have been anyways. I would like to think, I obviously can't know now, I can't prove it, but I would like to think that I would have seen it coming about midway through this episode, I think the point at which I really think I would have realized was when Ruby pointed out that only Christina and William ever come through that door to the basement. That's probably when things would have clicked into place. Maybe it still would have made me feel like, oh, but I won't know now. I know a lot of reactions that I saw online showed a lot of catharsis in the healed abuse of the manager at the store where Ruby had gotten herself set up as the white assistant manager. And I don't connect with that, I think, for the same reason that I didn't connect with a rather similar scene in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I'm not going to say that the person that this happened to didn't deserve it or something like it. But I will say that I find no catharsis in it. And I don't know. It didn't feel triumphant for me. And it didn't in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo either. I think sexually tinged abuse is not something that I'm going to find I'm ever going to be like, yeah, with. No matter who it's met out against. Definitely not if it's met out against a woman, but not if it's met out against a man either. And it's not that it was a bad scene, but it clearly wanted me to be going, hell yeah! And I'm like, I'm not gonna root for that kind of sexual violence to be met out against anybody. I'm just not. So then there's the thing that really, really pissed me off. So let's talk about Montrose. So as a reminder, previous episode, they encountered a intersex two-spirit indigenous character who Montrose then killed. I didn't like it when it happened last episode, but I was reserving a small amount of judgment because it happened at the very end of the episode and maybe they were going to address what had just happened in some way that I would find meaningful. They didn't. They really don't address it at all. So, even Atticus really only seems pissed because the loss of an information resource. Yes, he beats the crap out of his dad, but then what does he do? He rushes down to see if Letty has pictures yet. He doesn't rush to try and find this person who's now missing or to look for a body if he thinks they're dead. No, he needs pictures. He needs the information. That's what he cares about, not the fact that somebody's dead. Indigenous people are underrepresented in popular culture. Intersex people are underrepresented in popular culture. Two-spirit people, I'm not even sure I've ever encountered, I personally haven't ever encountered an instance of them being shown in popular culture. This is an intersectionally inclusive character introduced, killed in the same freaking episode, and there is no consequence to the character who did it. And I got more ticked off. This was brought to my attention by Jessie Gender, who did a video kind of addressing that specific angle on her own channel. But there's a podcast that the writers have talking about the episode, and there were things that they brought up, like that they clearly had an awareness that this was an underrepresented group, and they still did that. And they seem to imply in the podcast something like they were trying to evoke the like in a roundabout way, the transphobia of that exists within the black community to a certain extent. Now, I'm going off what they said. I can't speak to the accuracy of any of this because it's not my life that they're drawing their experience from. But they basically said something to the effect of that Montrose would have seen this character. It would have seen them as being even further othered than black people are. And this fear of his son associating with them is going to other Atticus, from the position of power that white people hold. He is already an other. And if he associates with this, then it's going to push him further away and further out into sort of the wilds and not having any humanity in the eyes of the people who control things. They bring that up in the podcast, and it's a concept I can even kind of get behind, but it's not evidenced in that episode, and it's nowhere in this one, especially given the whole thing about us learning that Montrose is gay. So when they first brought this up, what I was afraid was going to happen is not what happened. What I was afraid was going to happen was that it was going to be revealed that part of the reason he killed that character was because of a homosexual self-loathing, which is a really hazardous trope that needs to go away, like, for a while. Need to pack that nonsense in for a bit because it's way too prevalent. But they didn't do that, and I'm glad the show didn't do that. What they did instead was frame his coming out, his embracing of who he is, his being at this drag club and kissing his lover as a moment of triumph. Do not try to make me sympathize and be triumphant towards the character that this show used to kill off someone who, I'm sorry, represents a way less represented group of people on multiple levels than Montrose is. How dare you? How dare you use him as a vehicle to kill off a character who at this point I think shouldn't just even have been in the f***ing show? They served no point, no purpose. Their role effectively could have been filled as a document that Montrose burned, as opposed to a person representing multiple kinds of people who are underrepresented who gets killed. And then you have the audacity to try and make me happy for him? Fuck you. This has become a bit of an original sin issue for me now. This show, for me, has become badly tainted by what happened to that Two-Spirit character. And I think I'm going to keep going, but I don't know. I'm really, really upset. And I mean, like, I'm not Two-Spirit. I would never claim that identity. I'm not even an indigenous person. I would have no business claiming that. But I have for a long time, in most of the media that I consume, felt unseen and felt unrepresented. And I remember how powerful it felt the first time that I felt like I saw truly my experience reflected back on me on a screen. That was powerful when I saw that. I was 36 when I saw that. That was way too late in life, but I saw it and it mattered to me. And I get infuriated because I cannot help but imagine a Two-Spirit person thinking that they are going to be represented and then getting immediately killed and giving no more acknowledgement than a smashed up computer hard drive. It just pisses me off so much. And it for a show that has demonstrated in the past such a strong understanding, and understandably so, given a lot of the talent involved, such a strong understanding of dynamics and representation and people's place in the world, or the lack of it, to do this is maddening. I don't know. Like I said, there was largely positive reaction online. Maybe there's stuff there I'm not seeing. Maybe it's stuff I'm not properly connecting with. Maybe I'm not supposed to. Maybe the reality is at this point that the show isn't for me. And even if that is the case, I'm going to be sad by that, because episode 1 connected with me. Episode 3 really connected with me. And I just have these last 2 episodes I've not been able to connect with. And in fact, I feel like it's actively pushing me away. And I don't like that feeling. Depending on how much I can calm down over the next week, I'll probably give it one more go with the next episode. After that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't enjoy being angry. I know that, like, anger and, rants and mad content, is generally seen as being more engaging. You get better views, whatever. But I don't enjoy being this mad. I don't like feeling upset. It's not fun for me. Lovecraft Country. Episode 5. What did you think of it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. I have a Patreon, currently running a Kickstarter for my novel. Links in the description for both of those. No pressure on them, though. We usually take a relaxed attitude around here. I know I got worked up, but, you can just come on back next time you need a break. I think I need one more.